G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 99, one more before we hit the triple figures. A lot to talk about today. We'll be taking a look at going to take a little bit of a breakdown of my first ever YouTube collab for the channel. We'll also be taking a look at the full reveal of the Indigenous All-Stars team that will be playing in a couple of weeks, and a couple of interesting topics, and of course some pre-season breakdowns as we've been doing over the last month or so going into the 2025 season. But let's roll the intro and get straight into the new episode. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be more than just AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dankos to get the pies home! He's done it! So guys, as most of the time anyway, my brother is here with me. I think you were here last week as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're getting right into it now. The pre-season's starting to ramp up. A lot of, probably, what are we, a month before the season begins? Not even that now.
2 weeks away from pre-season matches going on.
Yeah, I mean, every single team thinks they're in it, like every single piece of hype.
Yeah, the Gold Coast still have hope that they're going to make their first final series.
North Melbourne are hoping maybe they'll win their third game of the season. It's all up in the air at the moment. Richmond think they may win a game. I mean,
everyone has a bit of faith. Everyone has hope. Everyone has hope.
Everyone starts at zero. Anything could happen. But before we get into some football news, I just wanted to talk about the first YouTube collaboration on the channel. So if you haven't seen it, we'll be playing a little bit of a trailer in a minute for you guys to check out. But a couple of months ago, I got reached out to by a YouTube channel named Statchat. Now, you may not know who they are, but they do basically AFL trivia on their channel, do videos. A couple of mates of theirs, whatever, they do trivia, which is quite exciting to watch. It's quite fun to watch. Some of you guys may have seen them, but they came up with an awesome idea to do a creator clash. So they got a bunch of AFL football creators on their channel to do a tournament-based 1v1 against other creators, and about a bunch of different topics and stuff. I won't get too much into it because I want you guys to check it out, but it was super fun. As you can see there, Statchat over on YouTube. Make sure to go check them out. Unfortunately, my brother wasn't able to make it, so he would have probably hampered me a little bit more. It would have been like a handicap that may have given me a couple of extra points to start off. So, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us, so it was just me for this. But this is the trailer that they've made.
Over the next 5 weeks, we're bringing you the biggest AFL trivia tournament ever. And we're teaming up with some of the biggest names on YouTube to do it. Cardman, UCAT, Boundary Riders, Football Science, AFL Goat HQ, The Gazman, J Tomo, and of course, our man, BT. 8 creators, 5 weeks, 1 winner. Who best knows their football?
We'll lock in Patrick Dangerfield. Jared Waite.
Jason Grant.
Chad Lecture.
Is that Mason Wood?
When you reveal these at the end, we're going to be pinching ourselves.
This is the Creator Classic.
So there you go, guys. The first episode will be airing on the 11th of February, and it will, like I said, it'll be weekly. Make sure to go subscribe to them, Statchat, over on YouTube, Statchat. I'll make sure to put the link in the description so you guys can go check it out, because it was super fun to do, and yeah, it's quite a unique sort of thing in the AFL space as well. So yeah, make sure to go check them out. But let's roll into a bit of footy news, because of course that's why you guys are here. Enough about us flogging each other off, I guess, about how YouTube famous we are. But first AFL news I wanted to take a look at was the Indigenous All-Stars team. So they've finally revealed who's going to be playing a couple of weeks in advance. I'll quickly go through the squad for you. There's a squad of 30 that they've picked from, and I'm assuming they'll be whittled down as we get closer. Maybe a couple of players will be ruled out through injury, who the hell knows. But anyway, I think every single team by the Giants and the Swans have a player from the Indigenous lineup. So at Adelaide, they have Isaac Rankin. Brisbane have Callum Archie and Charlie Cameron. At Carlton is Jesse Motlop and Zach Williams. Collingwood is Brad Hill and Ash Johnson. I haven't seen him play fucking forever. So there are a few players here who didn't really deserve it, I'm going to be honest. Anyway, Essendon and Jade Gresham, Fremantle, Shai Bolton, Alex Pearce and Michael Walters. Then we have Geelong with Humphreys and Stengel. Gold Coast is Jeffrey and Ben Long. Hawthorn, Carl Amon and Jarman Impey. Melbourne have Stephen May and Keziah Pickett. North Melbourne have Jai Simpkin. Port Adelaide have the pick of the bunch. They have 4 players with Jace Burgoyne, Jeremy Finlayson, Jason Horne-Francis and Willie Rioli. Richmond have Morris Rioli. St Kilda have Brad Hill and Wangadeen Miller. West Coast have Kelly, Livingston and Liam Ryan. And then Western Bulldogs have Liam Jones. So, I mean, overall, a lot of these guys are some of the biggest stars in the game.
Yeah.
So, it's a very star-studded lineup. I think it's a very good team. Do you think Fremantle really have, like, the team themselves have a chance?
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this team right now, and I mean, it's going to be... I mean, to be fair, there's not a lot of tall forwards, I'd say. Like, I don't know who's really going to play key forward. But I mean, a decent back line, like tall defenders and Alex Pearce and Liam Jones. I mean, I'd start with that. I guess Jeremy Finlayson's the only forward. And also, there's no ruckman for this team. I just realised that as well. So, I mean, Fremantle with Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson, depending on how strong Fremantle go into this game.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting lineup. I mean, if the ball hits the ground... Oh, I just realised Ash Johnson's in the calling. He's going to be key forward. So, look, I mean, Fremantle got a chance with Ash Johnson. But, I mean, if the ball hits the ground inside the forward 50 for the All-Stars, I mean, I think Fremantle are going to be done for. But I think this will be an interesting game. I don't know how competitive Fremantle will take it, per se. I don't know how many, like, All-Star, like, their full team, if they're going to play them or not, if they'll just play a B team, but hopefully they do play a somewhat full-strength side, because the team of the All-Stars is pretty good, I would say. The last time they kind of did an All-Stars team for Indigenous players was with, what was it, AFLX in the second year, which was, like, no one cared about. Team Deadly, I think they were called, with Eddie Betts. So I think this is a really cool idea. I mean, I think that it's about time we've seen these, like, little All-Star games, and I wouldn't actually mind a All-Stars Indigenous team versus, you know, South Australia or Victoria or whatever. Like, maybe instead of having... people say State of Origin's too far away, it's too far gone now. I mean, I don't know about that, but I mean, maybe they could do that every year. Maybe one plays an All-Stars SA team or a New South Wales team or whatever. Maybe just set that up that way. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
I mean, Port Adelaide got the pick of the bunch. They got Jace Burgoyne, Finlayson, Horne-Francis and Willie Rioli. So they've got 4 of them. Sydney didn't have one. I actually don't know if they have an Indigenous player on their list at the moment. So I'd have to have a quick look. Because obviously Buddy Franklin would be in the team if he was still there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they do. And the Giants, I'm trying to think if they have an Indigenous player either. I'm not too sure. So, I mean, other than that, I mean...
Yeah, well, Toby Bedford, I'm pretty sure it is. But...
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got a pretty good lineup. I mean, if I'm looking at the team right now, most of these players... Other than Ash Johnson, I know I keep throwing shit at him, but I mean, after he did that, remember that clip that he did in the VFL when he feigned the ball back at the guy who missed tackled, and then he came back and dragged him down and pushed him in the back?
Yeah.
After you did that, bro, you look like a bit of a fuckwit. So you kind of deserved it. But anyway, other than him and Livingston, I don't know much about Livingston if he's played many games for West Coast.
He's played a few, but
okay.
I think
but
it
I mean,
seems like they were trying to find a ruckman.
Is Livingston a ruckman?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's why he's in the team. Because that's the only tall... I mean, other than Finlayson playing second ruck for Port Adelaide at times, there's not really a tall option there. So, we'll see how that plays out. But I'm actually super excited to watch this game. I'd like to live stream it. I think it's... What day is it on? Is it a Thursday?
It's next Saturday night.
Oh, maybe I will be able to live stream live stream that game. Because I think that'd be super fun to take a look at. I mean, I don't know really... It'd be interesting if you... I mean, other than the Freo fans, if everyone's going to be, like, barracking for the Indigenous All-Stars, you'd imagine. I would hope so. I mean, you might as well. I mean, yeah, Freo kind of... I'll be interested to see how full-strength Freo go, though. That's what I'll be interested about. Now, a news topic that came up throughout the week was from Patrick Dangerfield. So, if you don't know, Patrick Dangerfield is the president of the AFL Players Association. And he had an interesting tweet, I guess, which gained a lot of traction over the week. So apparently in the NBA, a big, I think he's a journalist or ex-player, I don't know the NBA, but anyway, Adam Silver suggests NBA could shorten games to 10-minute quarters. So I think currently they play 15 or
12. I think
12.
it's 12, yeah.
12, so I mean 2 minutes. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but anyway. Paddy Dangerfield came out with a tweet saying, as audiences' attention span reduces, the debate will continue in the AFL quarter lengths. It's time to reduce them. So he also went on to say that he thinks that COVID taught us that 16 minutes was too short. He thinks it makes sense if they're around 20 to 28 minutes. So you could pull back 15 to 20 minutes of the game. So he's basically saying that, I mean, at the moment, there are a lot of the games, there's at least a quarter in each game that go for like 35 plus minutes every now and then.
Yeah,
You
see at least one over 32, 33 minutes a game.
Yeah. Now, when you first hear about this, you understand the outrage. Most people will be like, oh, you know, the games, you want to shorten all the games, you pay to do this, all this sort of bullshit. I personally don't want games to be shorter. But if a game was a little bit shorter to accommodate for more games, I'd be on board with this. What are your thoughts on shortening games?
I think it's funny that they get... Well, yes, they do pre-season and all that, but they do get... pretty much after the grand final, they do go from about November to late December with a break. They do get that break. Then they're doing pre-season. So they do get 26 weeks if you make it the grand final, 27 weeks. So it is a long season, but they already have buys in their season already. They've already got 2 big buys, maybe 3 now with the opening round. So I think they do get a lot of breaks during the season. I don't think they need to shorten it. I think Paddy Dangerfield just wants Geelong to have another shorter breaks because they're so old anyway.
I think I see your side, but I mean, if you think about it, as an AFL player, you never really get time off during the season. You have to play you're training. If you're not training, you're playing. If you're not playing, you're being scrutinised. It's a 24-hour job during the season. You can't. I mean, most players wouldn't even be able to go outside. Like, I mean, anyone that's of the stature of, you know, you're thinking top tier, they probably can't even go outside without getting noticed.
Well, as we saw with the Giants in their post-season celebrations, you know that they're nothing's hid by the media anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, it's a full-time, 24 hours, 7 days a week job for a lot of their year. And I mean, yes, in the pre-season, they get a good amount of time off. But they also, I mean, I can see, like, they get paid a huge amount of money to play games of football. That's your job. You get paid. It's not like when you work a 9 to 5 hour job that you can just every now and then say, oh, I don't really want to do an 8 hour shift. Can we pull it back now to 7 hours or something? I mean, that's your hours that you're allotted to play.
Well,
so you're working. So I mean, that's how much you have to play.
Well, I just think that if you look at like the NBA, then you look at say the world game in soccer, they're playing 60 older games a season, like soccer, and the NBA play 70 plus games a season.
Yeah, but they're a lot shorter games.
Yeah.
Though.
Well, soccer 90 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean 90 minutes compared to what? I mean 120 minutes of game time, 3 hours of game. I mean, yeah. I understand what you're saying. I mean, soccer you get paid a lot more too. I mean, how many Premier League players would you know that are paid? What's the highest paid AFL player? Like 1.6, 1.5. How many soccer players do you know the names of that are paid $1.6 million a year?
Well, I know a lot of them that are paid that within a minute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, soccer you get paid a whole lot more. So. The thing is, if he's going to say that, then he has to expect that the AFL would be like, okay, you're getting a pay cut then. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but I think, you're right. But you're also right about the first comment when you made it. It said that if you're going to reduce the time during games, within games, sorry, we expect more games to be played to make it more of an even fixture.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fair enough. Like, I mean, if you're going to take away... If, let's say, they made it 15-minute, or maybe not 15-minute, maybe 17-minute quarters, like stop-start quarters, then you got to have more games.
Yeah.
That's only fair, I feel like, as the supporters. So, I mean, the only way I think that would be better if they were to shorten games as well. I think it would make it a little bit easier for 5-day breaks for teams that are getting them, because it does feel a bit unfair when teams get 5-day breaks a lot now.
Especially when you have to travel from Melbourne back to Adelaide, or Melbourne back to Sydney every 2 weeks.
Or the horrid Perth.
The
Perth trip
Instead of if you're a Melbourne-based team, when you play 3 games in a row at Marvel.
Yeah, well, 3 is a bit low. I mean, I think that the Collingwoods and the Richmonds would like to have 3. Would be pretty disappointed with only 3 games in a row at the MCG or Marvel Stadium.
Well, if they have to go to travel to MCG Marvel, that's when they have a hissy fit.
Yeah, I know. We just don't like playing here, as Damien Hardwick liked to say. And then they won 1 game against Essendon last year in Melbourne. So, I mean, he's definitely had the curse in Victoria. Well, sorry, since he moved to the Gold Coast as well. Wonder if he ever talks about that to other people. Like, oh, I hate having to play. He definitely changed his tune after moving to the Gold Coast. But personally, the only way I would be happy if they shortened the games is if they added more games to the season. Because I think that would make it a lot more open to then making the fixture a lot more fair.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, it's a farce, really. I mean, the amount of times teams... Because at the moment, you look at the fixture and you're like, okay, a couple of teams have got a tough draw this year. But then a quarter of the way into the season, you finally learn who teams are good this season, teams that are bad.
Yeah.
And then it completely changes who's actually got the harder draw.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a bit of a joke. Now, I think it's a bit too hard to get, 36 games when Tasmania come in. So that would, because everyone has to play each other once.
Yeah.
Or 38 if they wanted to play their rivals twice. But then is it unfair for teams like whoever play North Melbourne and Richmond and that they get to play them twice who are bottom of the ladder?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it is always a bit hard. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever said the Premier League fixtures like favouring one team compared to another. I mean, because they play each other twice. But I think the AFL is not built for that. And if they were to play each other twice, the pay of players would have to fucking skyrocket.
Yeah.
So, overall, I think it is a bit of a whinge to say you got to shorten games, because if you shorten games, then players would have to expect that they're going to get a pay cut.
Yeah.
Their pay is going to get cut unless they have more games. So, yeah, I don't think it will happen anytime soon. I feel like there's no AFL news at the moment, but I did thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. But let's move on. We'll talk a little bit more about the pre-season information. We've been doing this throughout the last 4 or 5 weeks, really, just talking about pre-season information regarding injuries, how teams are going, players that are really shining so far this pre-season. I think it's been really interesting, and you guys seem to really enjoy it. The podcast has been getting probably more listens than we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks, guys. You just leave during the season. Sorry, Dean Gorringe is too important for you. Fucking, we're here in the mud trying to give you guys information for the pre-season, all right? And then when Daniel Gorringe comes back on his podcast, all of a sudden, we're nothing. Anyway. I thought we'd start with the injuries. So there's a couple of pre-season injuries to go through. I'll go through a list of them and then we'll go through some minor ones. But these are a little bit more serious. So pre-season injuries that have came over the last week or so. At Collingwood, we had Jordan De Goey go down. At Melbourne, Colton Tholstrup. North Melbourne, really unfortunate, George Wardlaw. At Richmond, we had Josh Kibkiss, Josh Smiley, and Tom Lynch go down with injuries. At St Kilda, it was a war zone. They had Matthias Filippo, Dougal Howard, and Rowan Marshall. At the Bulldogs, we had Tim English, Adam Treloar, and Jason Johannesson. And at West Coast, we had Elliot Yeo. So, really important players to a lot of those teams. I got one name wrong there, didn't I? You're smiling at me. I think it was
just the Warlord one, but yeah, you
George
corrected
Stewart. Anyway, I corrected it, so it's all good. All right, so let's go break down a couple of these. First of all, this was way back. I think this was on Wednesday last week. Matthias Filippo, he's going to miss up to 3 months with a stress fracture to his right femur.
Had to be.
Yeah, I mean...
Dominating and absolutely soaring in this pre-season.
Everyone thought this guy was going to be...
Everyone's talking about him, how good he is. He's going to be moving in the midfield. He's going to be great. And then, bang, he hits another injury that's halted his whole career.
Yeah, I mean, 3 months. That's going to take him to what, May? At this rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really unfortunate for him. And, you know, a femur injury, you're not really expecting him to come back full strength. So who knows when he's going to be back.
Yeah, you just hard to... When you get an injury this late in the pre-season, it's very hard to have a good season because you've done so much work and then bang, you hit it, especially to where it is. It's very hard to get to be back to where he was.
Yeah.
Close to
So Dougal Howard, there is no timeline set for Dougal Howard's return after he dislocated his shoulder at training. So 28-year-old has had some injury woes over the last 12 months or so. He will undergo scans on Tuesday before the club assigns a return date for him. So this was last week. They still haven't really given a date on to when he is going to return. Pretty unfortunate for St Kilda. Their defence is one of their stronger lines. Dougal Howard, pretty important for them. So he's going to miss a dislocated shoulder. That's
serious, really.
Yeah, the recovery from an injury like this, said by someone in the medical team for St Kilda, it doesn't really say. I don't know if Mission's a guy, or it sounds like the taco brand company. So I don't know which one it was. I mean, maybe the taco brand got involved in the injury crisis here.
Well, I think they're more focused on the Bulldogs, but
yeah, well, maybe they went over just quickly check them out. We'll get to the Bulldogs in a minute. There's a couple of injury concerns, but anyway, this says it can range between days and weeks. So I would assume, unless it's really serious, Dougal Howard will be ready for the season. But again, it's a little bit early to say. And finally, this is an interesting one, Rowan Marshall. He's had a pelvic stress fracture. Not really good. They've picked up Boyd in the SSP player as a replacement in case Marshall isn't ready to go round one. But there are concerns saying that he is racing the clock to be ready. So keep that in mind for your AFL fantasy teams and St Kilda fans as well, that Rowan Marshall may not be there round one. At this rate, if he's done a stress fracture, even if he is okay for round one, is he going to be fully fit? Yeah. That's a big concern. He's been on a modified training program for a lot of this pre-season.
For such an important player to their structure, if it was me, I'd take the cautious route and...
Yeah. I mean, now Tom Campbell, but he left St Kilda.
Yeah.
Finally got a spot there. And now he's gone to Melbourne, and Max Gorn has been pretty good this pre-season. Little one on Tim English here. He says he's been on a modified training program for a bit now after abdominal bruising. So he's been okay at training from what I can hear, but hasn't been doing full match sims yet. So just wait and see on the Bulldogs front. Elliot Yeo is a big one. The football boss and Gavin Bell said at this stage we're hopeful he will be available for early part of the season, but has ruled him out from the early rounds. So Elliot Yeo, a couple of years ago, couldn't get on the field, played half a season most of the time. I think there was a period just after the grand final to 2023 where he played like under 50 games or something. He had a very poor run with injury. Unfortunately, Elliot Yeo is going to be missing the first part of the season for the Eagles. On Richmond's front, some top draftees may have a delayed start to the season. One of them includes Josh Gibcus, who has been ruled out from the early rounds. So I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that at all? Because I know you haven't been your AFL fantasy team. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, I'll quickly change that. I did actually know that, so I did get rid of him today when I looked at my team.
Yeah, so Josh Gibcus missing the early rounds. Again, just can't catch a break, this kid. And Josh Smiley has suffered a minor hamstring injury in a match simulation. So, minor, good news, but hopefully he's okay.
Because he is such a young kid and they've got so high hopes, they probably will take the cautious route again.
Yeah, I'd imagine they'll be pretty cautious with the kids early on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've got so many of them. I mean, they can rotate them through the midfield every now and then.
They've got so many midfielders and, those.
So, another one for Richmond is a defender in Blight. He was caught at match sim clutching at his right shoulder. That's your right shoulder. And then Tom Lynch entered concussion protocols. So, Tom Lynch... unfortunately, he can't catch a break either. Missed a lot of last season through injury, so hopefully they need him this season if they're going to kick any sort of winning score. I mean, the only reason why he really stayed is because of how much... He's the highest paid player in the AFL, I think, at the moment still.
I'd be up there, definitely.
Yeah. All right, George Wardlaw. Hamstring injury is a high-grade issue. He's going to be out for 10 to 12 weeks. Terrible news for George Wardlaw. It felt like this season where he was going to have a breakout year. He's obviously been overshadowed by Harry Sheezel over the last couple of seasons. Thought maybe this would be the year for him. It looked like he was, working himself up to potentially take over from captaincy in a couple of years. Really unfortunate. He's going to miss predominantly the first half of the season. So hopefully he's okay for the second half, and who knows where North Melbourne will be at that stage. On Geelong, a couple of little concerns. Wouldn't be too adamant just yet. Toby Conway still hasn't been able to play in any of the match sims yet. Tanner Bruin was running laps away from the main group. And Cameron Guthrie also didn't participate, but trained separately later with the group. So keep your eye on them three for Geelong. Reece Stanley probably holds that number one spot at this stage, but Toby Conway, if he can stay fit, that spot's there for him.
The thing is, he's never had the stamina to keep. That's what the one thing he's been trying to build for the last couple of seasons, and that's why they've had to try. He's only played a few games, and he can't really play consistent games in a row.
And unfortunately, he's not really got the forward craft to play up there to get Chop out. So, yeah, hopefully he can play well this season. On the Bulldogs as well, Adam Treloar will miss the start of the season after suffering a series of calf strains across the pre-season. Was All-Australian for the first time last year. Adam Treloar, really unfortunate for him. He's not going to be able to start the season for the Dogs. And especially with the players that they've lost over the last couple of years, their midfield starts to look quite thin. Matt Kennedy's going to have to take a more prominent role in there, you would imagine. Ed Richards, from my understanding, has had a pretty good pre-season, so looks like he's going to get that midfield role pretty well locked up at this stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this stage, Adam Treloar is out, and Jason Johannesson looks like he's going to miss the next 2 to 3 months with a hamstring injury as well.
He's been hammered by injuries recently, so...
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how he plays out, but that's really unfortunate for him. News as well recently came through when they were starting to up the workload for Collingwood players. Jordan Ngoe left the track early with a calf issue. Now, I haven't heard too much news about this since, but not good news for a player who missed a lot of last season with injury.
No, he's just suffered so many injuries last year that he just could never get on the park. And when he did, you could just see he wasn't himself. He wasn't the same player he was.
Yeah. Not that burst of any... I mean, that grand final, he was one of the best players on the ground. So, unfortunately, he's going to be out. And finally, Colton Tholstrup had some bone stress and had been sidelined and seems to be sidelined for an extended period. This was posted by Melbourne. So, young gun, they were expecting him to be one to step up this year. Unfortunately, doesn't really give a timeline at this stage. So, hopefully, he'll be there early parts of the season for the D's. That's really unfortunate for them. But now let's move into some good news on the pre-season front. So, we've talked about the bad, all the downers. Who cares? Wipe that off your calendar because we're talking about the good stuff now. So, first of all, I want to talk about some players who are tearing up the track according to Fox Footy. Okay, they've given us, I think, 9 players to list off here. And I'm going to quickly go through them after it, but we'll just list them off. So they have said that Isaac Rankin for the Crows, Jagger Smith for the Blues, Max Holmes for the Cats, Sam Flanders for the Gold Coast, Jake Stringer for the Giants, Jai Newcomb for the Hawks, Christian Petrarca for the Demons, and Matt Roberts for the Swans are all tearing up the track so far this pre-season. Now, I don't know if they've kept track of Christian Petrarca, but he's been injured.
I'm pretty sure...
For a bit of this pre-season, so I don't really know where they're coming from there.
I'm sure they're not been Clayton Oliver.
Well, they've put Christian Petrarca as the picture behind the graphic that they posted, so they want to be pretty sure. I haven't really heard much about Sam Flanders, but I mean, that's good to hear. Maybe they've got some insight somewhere else. I'm not too sure. But Christian Petrarca kind of jumped out at me. Like, he's been a bit of... he had a rib issue a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, apparently they think he's okay. I did hear some news that Isaac Rankin had an issue at a training and had to leave the field in a match sim, but seems like he's okay. Jake Stringer... Oh, this is real. I mean, maybe he's having a good... Maybe he is. I don't know. I mean...
Maybe the new environment of not being in Victoria has helped him, maybe.
Yeah, you don't want to just mark that down yet.
Yeah, you just... Doesn't mean much.
Grain of salt.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean much at the moment.
Yeah. But, I mean, Jagger Smith, that's good news for Blues fans. Max Holmes, I've sung his praises all pre-season. Matt Roberts, I've heard some good things about him from the Swans. That's good to see. He'll be really important off the half-back this year. Jai Newcomb seems to be having one of the all-time pre-seasons, it sounds like. They're saying, I mean, he's polled pretty well the last couple of seasons in Brownlow. And if Hawthorn, a lot of people are expecting them to jump up. Could be a Brownlow smoky if we're looking at it. But... that's basically all the stuff that Fox Footy have. So now I've been looking at some information regarding the pre-season information. And as we mentioned last week, a lot of this information is coming from Nerds for Life over on Facebook. I think they have an Instagram as well. This guy's basically been able to combine all the information he's been able to find on Twitter and wherever, basically, and compile all the information you guys need to know about pre-season. So he's basically been the first person that I've found that's known about the injury stuff before everyone else has. He's also been posting all the players that are doing well in pre-season, the different player positions that they're going to be that people are experimenting. Like, he was the first person that told me that Tom McCartan's been trialled as a forward this year. Jacob Kaczynski, which we'll get into in a minute, looks like he's going to have a role change this year as well for the Tigers. But he's been one to bring some light to some pre-season information, which has been really helpful for us. And yeah, so if you guys want to go check him out, Nerds for Life over on Facebook. Basically, every single time I open Facebook now, which is once a day, basically, here's the first post that comes up about match simulation. So make sure to go check him out. First of all, I want to talk about my boys, the Sydney Swans. Apparently, Cal Mills, first off the rank, dominating in CBAs all day in the match sims. Cal Mills, that's where he needs to be. No more defence for him. He was very shaky back there when he came back into the team last year. Play him in the midfield. Isaac Heaney looks like he's a part of the CBA action as well for the Swans. It's really good to see. Chad Warner played some forward for a lot of the match simulations, so it's a bit of an interesting one. I think they will try and do that a little bit more this year, Sydney, try and rotate them deep forward a little bit more to try and give it a little bit more electricity up there, I would say.
A bit more flexibility.
Yeah, a little bit more flexibility as well. Ben Patton. So a lot of people haven't really talked about this guy. He moved from he got delisted from St Kilda. Sydney picked him up as a rookie. Looks like he's having a pretty good pre-season so far, so keep your eye out on him if you're a Swans fan. And finally, Tom McCartan. He's been trialled as a forward this year under Dean Cox. I've said that I'm pretty shaky on this. My philosophy on this has been, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think he's been a very good defender for Sydney, but they're trialling him up forward, and he kicked 2 goals in the match simulation as a key forward. So, decent signs so far. We'll have to wait and see as the season plays a part. Josh Dacos. A lot of people may not know this, but he's mainly been played as a defender so far this pre-season. Looks like he's going to be trialled off of half-back. So, bit surprising one, considering they just picked up Harry Perryman and Dan Houston. It looks like Perryman's going to be playing a little bit more up the field for the Pies. So Dan Houston and Josh Dacos off of half-back, I think it's a pretty good duo.
Yeah, they did trial it late last season when their season was done. So it's not an unknown position for him. But I think at pre-season, I think he's a good distributor of the ball. And him giving it to Nick Dacos, who can kick it inside 450. What else could you want from a Pies fan?
Yeah. Nick Dacos, good news. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the fact that he had an injury. Good news is he stepped up his training and says he's ready to go for Collingwood's opening round clutch against the Giants. So all good news there. Seems to be managing his foot injury well. So great news. A couple of other Collingwood players. Ed Allen continues to push for a spot in the side early, playing in the midfield. I've said that he's been pretty good so far this pre-season. He's one of the young guys who potentially could be making that team early on. So keep your eye on Ned Allen. And Ned Long, also in the mix for an opening round game. He played a couple of games last year for Collingwood. So he may be around when those first couple of games are rolling around. On the Giants, Harvey Thomas was very impressive in their match simulations. One of the best players on the ground playing in the midfield. Joe Fonte showed a lot of class playing off of half-back. They nicknamed him the Font, like the Bont, so yeah. I like that. James Leake is a defender. He was a pretty high draft pick in 2023's draft. Was injured throughout all of 2024. Looks like he's ready to go. He's played a little bit of midfield throughout the pre-season, was one of the best in the pre-season games, and looks to be an option to replace Harry Perriman's role at the club. And finally, Connor Stone. We've talked about him a few times. Seems to be having a very strong summer and is ready to be pushing it into their best side in opening round. So good news there on the Giants front. On the Crows, looks like Rory Laird looks to be solely playing as a half-back role this year. Been doing that throughout his whole pre-season, which is giving opportunity for the likes of Peatling and a couple of other young guys to get into that midfield. We'll talk about it in a second. Matt Crouch has had a pretty strong pre-season so far, so that's good to see, especially as he gets older now. Dan Curtin played forward all day in the pre-season in the match simulation. Still played pretty well, but didn't play that midfield role that he's had in previous match sims. So keep your eye on Dan Curtin. Seems to have bulked up a little bit, which is good to see. James Peatling started on the wing in their match simulation before moving into inside mid. So looks like he's going to be taking over that role. Played a little bit of time through there for the Giants last year, but never wasn't able to break through, really. But now it looks like he's comfortable in the Crows midfield core. And Isaac Cumming played a little bit of midfield, but also rotated off of halfback. So both the Giants recruits looking pretty good at the Crows so far this pre-season. Now at Hawthorn, there's one guy that keeps on coming up from Hawthorn teammates, and that's Cam McKenzie. So look, he was a pretty high draft pick when he got picked up a couple of years ago. According to Dylan Moore, he's a little bit like Sam Mitchell. That's good talk. In ways, He's able to get out of traffic and get out of congestion quite easily. And Connor McDonald said he's one guy to definitely break out this year, given the right opportunity. He thinks he's been stuck behind a few good players in the last few years, but he thinks he's got special things coming. And, I mean, that sounds like good news for Hawthorn fans. I think he played in the final against Port Adelaide, I'm pretty sure.
He played a lot of games last season.
Yeah, he just hasn't really locked down that spot yet. But I think pre-season from him playing is, I mean, if you're getting compared to Sam Mitchell, there must be something good about you. On Melbourne, Max Gawn and Christian Petrarca. So this is why I was a bit confused as to why they were saying Christian Petrarca is absolutely tearing up the track. Because Nerds for Life has actually said that he's still with the rehab group. He's tearing up the medical room. He's insane. Anyway, not too far away though. So that is good news. But, I mean, tearing up the track, I mean, maybe he was. He was before they got injured.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that Fox Sports post was like made a couple of through the week.
Yeah.
He was in the rehab group. Anyway, Max Gawn is starting to get back to the main group. So we did have that, I think it was a larynx injury. Too many interviews last year. He just couldn't talk
He had
anymore.
to stop these spot fires that were going on.
Yeah, I know, it was too annoying for him. Jesus Christ. Anyway, apparently he's good. So, I mean, that's not too many concerns.
As long as he's good at Melbourne.
Won't finish bottom.
Yeah.
So that's good to see. On West Coast, a couple of players from the best in their match simulation games. Apparently the best players from the teams were Jamie Cripps, Elijah Hewitt, Liam Duggan, Jinby, Ryan Marrick, who's playing a new role in the back 50, which is good to see. But apparently, according to Jepper DT over on Twitter, he says the best player in the match simulation came from the B team, by a guy named, little known, Tom Gross. Apparently he really was quite important, super impressed by him. So Tom Gross, I actually looked, AFL fantasy-wise, he's a basement price midfielder. So keep your eyes on him, maybe he'll be a early debutant for the Eagles. On St Kilda, David King kept an eye on there, a couple of match simulation games. Nasiah Wanganeen Miller says this guy could be anything, had a massive start to the pre-season, good to see. He's found it very interesting, a lot of young, light-bodied players in the group, which is probably good for down the track, he mentioned. He said Max Hall and Travalia showed plenty, which is two players that I've talked about previously. King and Sinclair look good so far this pre-season. And Schoenmaker seems to answer a lot of questions on their kicking issues. And Hasty seems to have got a lot better as the session went on. So a couple of St Kilda players there to keep an eye on. On Tim English, does seem he's on a modified program at this stage. Is doing a lot of running, a lot of sprinting work. Has been seen with the rehab group indoors for contact work. So not a lot of match simulation just yet. Tim English, I feel like, will be okay once the season starts. But there has been concerns on his abdominal issues. Braden Crosley. Do you remember this guy?
Not when he's played for the Gold Coast. I don't really remember him, but
I do remember that he got caught. I think it was with cocaine or something. It was one of those illicit drugs. Anyway, I don't want to throw shade on the guy because he went to Southport, dominated at Southport. Been playing there for a couple of years now, dominating for them. He's finally got an opportunity to train with the Bulldogs. Seems like he's doing a lot of good work. Has been invited to train as a rookie. Still a decision to be made on him or Dom Brew as yet, which was both Bulldogs players. Both of them are training at the Bulldogs, both VFL players. Neither of them have been talked about just yet. Obviously, the Bulldogs are a little bit light on ruck reserves, with obviously Gerald and Sweet leaving last year. So maybe they will fill this spot with Braden Crosley. We'll have to wait and see. Love the mo on him though. Yeah. He deserves his spot.
It's going to be an icon if he gets.
He's going to be a cult hero. Let's be honest. Colby McKercher, I wanted to point this one out because I thought it was quite interesting. A lot of people have been talking about him playing as that halfback role this year. Everyone thinks he's going to get it. Apparently, though, when he played in the match simulation, he played on the wing, played a little bit at centre, in the middle of the ground, also played half forward, but spent no time at halfback. It seems at this stage that Zach Fisher is the one who's going to be playing that halfback role with Caleb Daniel. People who've got Colby McKercher, just be a little bit cautious on this one because he doesn't seem to be getting the Harry Sheezel role that everyone was expecting him to get. Yeah. So just one to keep an eye on for you guys. Other North Melbourne players, Eddie Ford looks to have had a strong performance in their recent match sim, along with Will Phillips, pretty busy in the midfield. He just needs to run it at Will Phillips at this point. Yeah, if he doesn't have a good year this year, it's interesting to see how his career is going to go. Yeah. Finn O'Sullivan, of course, the number 2 pick, starting on the wing in the main team for their match sims. That's good to see. Jacob Constanti, he was the Swans pickup. That was basically like the bag of Oreos they chucked on top for Luke Parker's deal last year. Seems to have been really impressive in their second match simulation. He played on limited minutes, but still kicked 2 goals, so not too bad. Jai Simpkin playing mostly forward, pushed up to some contest further up the ground, but looks like he's going to be playing forward, which is...
I don't like it. And
I don't like it for him. But that is one spot that North Melbourne probably don't need to fill, is their midfield roles, which is unfortunate. But Simpkin, last year when he played well, was when he was in the guards.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how they're gonna accumulate him into the team, but I feel like they have to, somehow. But I mean, again, it's pretty hard to put him in when they've got players like Davis Uniacke, Sheasel, Parker now as well. You know, it's going to be hard to get him through.
But the thing is, he is the captain, so you don't.
Well, he's going to play any role that they need him.
Yeah, and he's the old cliche of I'll play wherever the coach wants me to.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're positioned where you play well, it's in the midfield, then I mean that's where you should be fucking playing. Anyway, Zach Fisher, like I said, continues to be the distributor off of halfback, along with Caleb Daniel. He didn't move back there all day. Caleb Daniel, absolute lock for AFL Fantasy. Absolute lock for a watch for North Melbourne this year. Could be a top 5 finisher in the best and fairest, I think, this guy. Obviously, he won the Bulldogs best and fairest back in 2020. So I think he could be big this year, Caleb Daniel. And representing us as Short Kings. So good on him, Caleb Daniel. Anyway, on Richmond. So Sam Laylor, in their match simulation, looks like he's all fine. I did mention, I think it was about a month ago, that there was some injury concerns on him. He looks all good now. Midfield minutes, play there most of the time. He's been playing this role in the guts in the practice matches. Looks all good to go. So I think number 1 pick, they'll chuck him in there. They'll want to give him some. They want to give him some limelight. Good to say. Jacob Hopper continues to have a strong pre-season, getting the majority of the CBAs in the action. That's good to see. Jacob Kaczynski, we mentioned it a few minutes ago. Looks like he's going to be playing off in the back line this year. So,
it'd be interesting.
Interestingly enough, I don't know if many people know this, but he was an All-Australian defender in the under-18s. Obviously, he's been linked to, is it his uncle in Justin Kaczynski?
I think so.
I think it's his uncle.
Yeah.
I think it's his
some
dad.
relation.
Yeah, so they obviously compared him to him. But I don't mind this. I think if a player's got some sort of talent in the game, just chuck them down the other end and see if they actually work out.
Yeah.
So I think this could work. And I mean,
they've done with Jeremy McGovern, Mitch McGovern.
Yeah. Tom McCartan.
Yeah.
So it can work.
Yeah.
So I think this is good, and he seems to have been performing very well so far this pre-season for the Tigers. Jaden Short, he's the primary distributor off of the defensive 50. He's going to be there all year. He's back, even though he was there last year with Dan Rowley, he's taking over from that. Whoever the
he's
kid
gone back to where he was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, which is good to see. Essendon, Elijah Sardis. I talked about him last week. It's the last player I'm going to take a look at. Yet again, more talks about him having being the absolute standout in Essendon's match simulation. With plenty to show, looks like he's going to be an opening round team. As long as no injury concerns, fucking knock on wood. I mean, we talked about Mateus Filippo and then he fucking got injured. But Elijah Sardis looks like he's got all great signs. He's been around the mark for the last couple of years, but it seems like now he's been training a lot more on his first touch work as well in the midfield. He gives them something different. Essendon have trialled a couple of these younger guys in the midfield over the last couple of years with Sam Durham and Jai Caldwell, along with matching up with Zach Merritt. Zach Merritt's had some talk that he's played a little bit up forward in the match simulation so far at the Bombers, but I wouldn't be too concerned by that. When they need Zach Merritt, he's going to be in the guts. Yes. So they won't chuck him forward. He needs to be there with whoever else they can just fucking chuck in.
Yeah, when they need a saviour, that it's going to be Merritt. It was last year and it always has been since he's been captain. Yeah,
so keep your eye on Elijah Sardis. Like I said, I think he's going to be one of the breakout players for the Bombers this year, and all talk so far seem to be looking in that direction. But guys, that's basically all we have for this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This is the 99th episode. Next week will be our 100th. So make sure to come join us. Come watch. You better be here. I will be pissed off if you're not. We're going to 100% clickbait the title saying it's the final episode, because next week will be the final episode on this channel. We are moving the Boundary Riders podcast to our brand new YouTube channel. It's not really brand new. It's an old channel that we had, but this will be the first. The podcast will be moving from episode 101. Yeah. So the podcast will be moved over there. Now, the reason I said this last week, but in case you missed it, the reason why we're moving it is because the channel is going to be a lot more packed up this year with other videos. We've got the review coming back, of course. The tips will be coming out. The video essay is going to be coming out every 2 weeks. And then the trade videos will be coming out at least once a month for the first couple of months of the season, then probably every couple of weeks. So we don't want it to be too compact with everything else, and we want to have a little bit more of an AFL fantasy segment as well. So we're going to be keeping AFL Fantasy segment over on the Boundary Riders Boundary Riders podcast YouTube channel, along with the podcast every single week. Now, for people who listen on Spotify, nothing's going to change for you guys. The podcast will be coming out on Spotify every single week, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're on YouTube, the podcast will be moving to the brand new channel. The link is down below. And look, if you forget, or one of your mates listen, I guess, if they don't know where it is, it'll be on a new YouTube channel, and we'll be putting it out, basically promoting it every week on the community tab. So you'll probably see it anyway. But in case you haven't, you want to subscribe over there now, the link is down below. But guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And if you did enjoy it over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast every single week. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.